Welcome to DAExMachiNa. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you all for joining us on another edition of DAExMachiNa. We are going to be here tonight and telling you guys stories from the bizarre and kind of strange world of cryptids, mostly Bigfoot and Dogman, but we may spice it up with a few others in there. But joining me tonight is Robbie Jed Brains, as opposed to Robbie Rip Brains, but he's got the Rip hat on, so it's still kind of Rip. Uh, we're going to try to keep you all busy tonight. Robbie, how you doing, brother?
Short of trying to kill Grammarly, I'm doing okay.
I've warned you, man. The editing part is work. Editing sucks.
No. Oh, Grammarly sucks. That's what sucks. Editing is not great. It's not fun, but hello, daughter. Yeah,
I saw that. I was getting ready to put that up. You said it first.
But yeah, it's just that program. I hate it. 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 Did I
It
say I
does a
hate
good
it?
job, but it is very frustrating.
Did I say I hate it?
I told you. I warned you ahead of time. Editing was the hard part. Writing's fun, but a lot of those things that you're learning that Grammarly nitpicks and how to fix now are probably things you won't do as much in the next book. And each successive book, you'll find yourself doing less and less of those mistakes. It's really a good writing teaching tool. Like I said, I learned how to not write a book.
It can't make up its mind. It contradicts itself like 4 or 5 times. So I don't know.
Sometimes you just got to pick a style and go with it. We got a pretty full house already tonight. We're already over 100 people, and we're just a couple minutes into the show. I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight, man. We have got a bunch of people in the house tonight, a bunch of familiar faces, even some new ones. I just wanted to take a quick second to remind you all we are still looking at the numbers that YouTube sends us. We're still looking at about between 40 and 45% of people that watch the video aren't subscribed to the channel. We would love to have you guys as members of the DAExMachiNation, and it don't cost you a cent. Just hit that little like, share, and subscribe button, and make sure you hit that little bell icon so you get alerted anytime we go live. And we would sure appreciate it, and it does help us continue to grow the channel. And another big shout out I want to make is to everybody who has really been there, and been supportive for the new book release. And I will look that up live right now just to show you guys the where she's at, because last I checked, which was yesterday, actually, I haven't checked it yet today, but last I checked, yes, it is still number 1 in Western horror. That's 2 weeks at number 1 in Western horror. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys for making that possible. It's come up a little bit in the main ranks. It's number 4,245 in Kindle overall, which still isn't bad. It got down to about 2,200, but it's kind of climbed back up a little bit. But that's out of like 40,000 titles on Amazon. It's number 13 in historical mystery and number 31 in mystery and thriller. We've been doing pretty good in a lot of the charts. So I'm really, really thrilled about that. And I want to thank you guys for making that possible. I'm still so super excited. And I'm just beside myself that it's stayed in the number 1 slot for 2 weeks.
Have the other stayed
that's
up?
Just awesome.
Have the other stayed up too, or?
I did not check. I already clicked out of that. Let me go back and I will check and see, because we had at one point all 4 of the Dark Frontiers books were in the top 10 in Western horror. Let's check that right now. Okay, the new one, Dark Frontiers Demon of Paladuro, is still at number 1. Dark Frontiers First Hunt is at number 4. Cry of the Wendigo is at number 5. And Howl of the Wolfman is at number 7. So we are occupying 4 of the top 10 spots with the Dark Frontiers series. Thank you guys so much for making that possible. That is just absolutely astounding. But But we will jump into what we're here for here in just a second. We want to take a quick moment before we get too terribly started to mention one of our affiliates. We're going to do that right here at the beginning of the show, get it out of the way, and we're not going to take but about a minute of your time. But tonight, I thought we would mention, one of the ladies that brought us to the prom, so to speak. We're going to talk a little bit about Skallywag Tactical. Robbie, you want to tell us a little bit about Skallywag Tactical?
Got me a visual aid here.
I'll grab one of the big ones.
You grab it. Yeah, I'll grab the a little.
Drop the hand. I drop the. And my green screen is really trying to chroma key this thing out.
Yeah, it almost disappears at times. But I don't have a green screen, so you can see mine, hopefully. Skallywag Tactical is another one of our affiliates. They're also a veteran-owned affiliate. We do, you've seen them all in the books. DA puts them in the books for a reason because they're good quality knife. You can't go wrong if you're wanting just a durable, off-the-shelf knife. You can't beat these. Ken and I make knives, and no two knives are going to be the same. If you want dependable, repeatable, you want to buy 5 knives that you can put around in different places, and you can count on every single one of them because they're all, have been made to the same specs. These are your knives. And, like I said, I make my own knives, but I've got plenty of Skallywag Tacticals.
Well, Robbie makes fixed blade knives. If you want a good pocket folding knife, you can't go wrong with Skallywag Tactical. I've got a dozen of their folders, and I carry one literally every day.
Yeah, I'm still in mourning over my Wahoo because apparently I lost it somewhere down in Missouri this last time.
Oh, that sucks. I'll look around the house and see if it might be here.
I got home and I got to looking. I couldn't find it. It was not with any of my other knives. So I'm still in mourning for my Wahoo because I love that knife. I carried that. That was the knife I put in my uniform pocket every morning. So that's one of the best folding knives I've ever had.
It's a damn good knife.
Yeah. So rest in peace, my Wahoo. Not like I don't have plenty others to replace it. It's just when you get a good knife that you like, that works good and feels good and it does everything you need it to do, you get used to it and you don't want to lose it. But anyway, go check out Skallywag Tactical. They're always putting new knives in the queue, so to speak. Check out the blemish blade section. Get yourself a good deal. Use code DARoberts10 at checkout. Get an extra 10% off, and that does count for the deals on the blemish blade section. So that's all I got to say about that.
Absolutely. And before I forget, I'm going to give a quick shout out. Let me pull it up on the screen. Larry Sharp gave us a super chat. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you so much. And there was something up that popped up earlier. I was going to put
somebody, I think 420 Stoner is celebrating a month of membership.
Oh,
maybe.
Yeah, that's what it was. But now it's disappeared. I can't even find it.
I think that's what it was. We were talking, or you were talking about something, so I couldn't. And I'm trying to. I think anytime I mess with the stuff on the side, rolling it back or putting something up, that's when I've noticed if I don't lose my sound, I haven't messed with anything on the side. So I'm trying to see if that's if I don't mess with that. If I don't mess with that and I don't lose sound, I think that's what's causing it.
But anyway, we will now get on to the remainder of the show. But yeah, definitely check out Skallywag Tactical. Craig Burhart's a great guy, awesome dude, and don't be surprised if he doesn't make an appearance in a book coming in the very near future. If you guys are ready for us to jump into some counter stories, I know Robbie's already got one prepped, so I'll let Robbie jump in first, and I think this is going to be a pretty good one.
We'll see. Bring it back up. All right. This is from July of 1990 in Robson County, North Carolina. There's a dogman sighting. It says I was around 9 years old or so and was at my mom's friend's house because they were having a little get together. My mom's best friend at the time decided to go get something, which was at a house nearby down a dirt road in the woods. My mom's friend decided to take my friend and me with her. I wish I'd never gone with her. We rode over there, and then we rode over with her over there. And when she got out, my friend and I stayed in her car and waited for her to come back out. After sitting in the car for about 10 minutes, we decided to get out and go see what was taking her so long. When we did that, she told us to get back in the car, so we did. As it turned out, she was buying weed, so we weren't. Maybe I should proofread these first.
Maybe.
Or a little bit further than I proofread. Anyway, she was buying weed, so we went back. We weren't welcome in the house. So my buddy and I got back in the car and waited for her to come out. They had a lot of bulldogs on that property. The dogs had been barking like crazy, and then all of a sudden it just stopped all at once, and they went into their houses. When my friend and I saw this thing, it looked like some kind of werewolf coming out from behind the car. We froze and just stared at it as it walked by. It looked so demonic. When we saw it, we ducked down and laid it into the floorboards. We laid there for what seemed like forever until we heard my mom's friend hitting the driver's window, trying to get us to let her in. I guess it left when it heard her coming out of the house or something. So that's it. That's on that one.
The people that were purchasing weed spotted a dog man.
Well, they were kids, so hopefully they weren't under the influence of it.
Still, it's a pretty good encounter, but it's just the circumstances make that one kind of funny.
Oh, yeah. I read that. And I was like, whoops, should have proofread that one.
Oh, well.
I saw Dogman in North Carolina. I thought, oh, that'd be cool.
Well, ignoring that fact, there are some behaviors in that are kind of typical. I mean, the way they described it being, demonic, that kind of thing. That's fairly common among dogman sightings.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about that before. How, you can run the gamut with Bigfoot encounters, where some people are saying, "Oh, we were lucky to get out of there," and some people, that had typical Harry and the Hendersons encounter, but you don't find too many dogman encounters. I mean, yours was probably one on the rare side where you just saw it saw you and it ran off.
Yeah.
For the most part, people, even the two that I had that I'm pretty sure were dogmen, it wasn't no cute, cuddly, huggy feely moments. I mean, I felt like I told you, I felt like we were being hunted, and
something wrong.
You
just kind of trailed off.
Yeah, I just what was it? Unnecessary ellipses. Yeah, but I put too many of them in there. Sorry.
Yeah, but like you're saying, a lot of those encounter stories, that's the way they describe it: demonic or hellish or evil. So that there is a commonality right there. I wouldn't, just because of the circumstances of their being there, I wouldn't discount that report. But it does certainly add an interesting element to it.
Leave it to me to pick that one.
Of course. Well, the one I found is a bit long.
They were buying meth.
No, this one is a daylight sighting of a white-haired Bigfoot in a yard outside of Lonedale, Missouri. So my 4-year-old son and I were visiting my parents who lived in Lonedale, Missouri. My mother was napping. My father was at work. He helped farm there on the land. They lived in a trailer on about 350 acres owned by their landlord. I was sitting on the front porch with my son and my parents' dog, Buddy. It was mid-afternoon, probably between 1 and 3 p.m. I noticed something or someone walking in the field connected to the front yard coming in our direction. My first instinct was to get my baby inside. However, I could not help but stand in the doorway, screen door closed, but the wooden door opened just enough for me to peer through. Whatever that thing was, it kept coming closer to the trailer. By this time, Buddy, the dog, was timidly barking. I could tell from his bark that he was threatened but afraid. I felt bad leaving the dog out on the porch alone, but I was too afraid to go out there. The thing, or for lack of a known word to call it, what it was walking on two legs, aimlessly, not in any hurry, and I could not find a reason as to why it came to the yard. It was just looking around and wandering around, leisurely walking. There was a wooden fence, almost mostly for decoration and only about 20 feet long, that the thing walked next to. My mother had some decorations, can't remember what, hanging on the fence that the thing seemed to look at. The dog barking did not startle the creature, it just kept walking. I was absolutely astounded by what I was seeing. If not for the fact that the dog was seeing it too, I would have wondered if my eyes and or brain were playing tricks on me. I decided to be brave and opened the screen door just enough to stick my head outside. That's when the thing looked at me, met my gaze, and I just stood there, half afraid of its reaction, and its next move it seemed to be more curious than anything. My heart was racing. I held my son up to look at it also, still indoors. After it looked at me and yet showed no fear, I had more time to study it and was racking my brain to identify what I was seeing. Here is the best description I can give. It was between 4 and 6 feet tall, walking on two legs, covered from head to toe in very long white hair. Its face was mostly covered in white hair as well, except for its eyes and maybe its mouth. It did not have a snout like a dog. Its shape and build was that of a human's. I even compared it to a bear in my head, but there were not enough similarities. This thing was not very animalistic in behavior. The way it walked and looked at me was more typical of a human. Yet the way it wandered and seemed oblivious to the man made things around it, cars, the trailer, and even the fence, was more like the characteristics of an animal. I did not get the feeling that it was aggressive or wanting to cause harm. Yet, because of the size and animalistic nature of it, I knew that it was strong and could hurt me, my son, or the dog. It began to walk around the side of the garage out of my sight, but closer toward the end of the trailer that had my bedroom that my mom was napping in. I ran down to the bedroom and began frantically looking out the windows, searching to see where it had gone. I woke my mother up in a tizzy and quickly told her what I had seen and wanted her to look. She was still half asleep and slow to process what I was saying. I did not see where it went from there. I could not locate it through the windows, and I was much too afraid to go outside and look. My mom, my son, and I all sat and talked about what I had seen that afternoon. I was still shook up about it. My son was able to confirm to my mother that it was not a dog and not a bear. The fact that we both saw and heard that dog barking at it helped us to convince my mom it wasn't a human or another dog, bear, etc. My mom said the people down the road have two big white dogs, but like I told her, this thing was walking on two legs and not all fours like a dog. For many other reasons, I knew it wasn't a dog. I'd never seen a bear in real life before, but I'm sure it wasn't a bear either. Not to mention, why would it be white? Uh, I had heard of and seen animated Yetis on a PC game before. That was the closest thing I could match to what I had seen. I knew then and know now that many people do not believe Yetis are real, but whatever it was I saw that day makes me wonder if they are in fact real and if this is what I saw. I believe it was late summer when this happened. Nice weather, sunny day. Like I said, mid afternoon, and it was out in the open. There were clear farmlands all around us. One pond stocked with fish and swans right next to the end of the trailer that went in the direction that had gone in the direction of. There were also two other ponds on the land. I know that a lot of the 350 acres was wooded. Also, there was a road about 300 feet from where the thing was, and also from where I was. There was only about 150 feet between myself and the creature. I'm not good at mathematical estimations, but I was as close as I would have wanted to be to whatever that was. It looked as if it could have made about 10 strides to me in a very short amount of time, so I stayed inside. I've read a few of the other sightings here on the site, but all I have read here are people seeing creatures covered in dark brown, almost black, long hair. That wasn't the case with me. The description of the hair being that it was very long and covered the whole creature, not tangled, matted, or disarrayed, but was a blinding white color. Didn't even look dirty or yellowed. I wish I could remember its hands or feet, but I can't. I can say that its eyes were bigger than that of a human's and seemed very dark. Other than when we met each other's gaze, it had its head looking down, so I could not see its eyes or facial features well at all. I did not make any noises at all. It did not make any noises at all. It hardly made any sound while walking. This happened about 5 years ago, and I've not forgotten it and never will. In fact, my son still remembers seeing it as well. I told my dad about it when he got home. He couldn't tell me what it was either. He had not seen anything like that before. I've told my husband, my brother, some friends. No one can relate to what I saw and help me to name what it was. I often wish I could go back to that day and be less afraid and more willing to study it or to even sit outside and watch it instead of hiding inside. I doubt I will ever see anything like that again, and yet I don't know if I really want to. Hope this helps in some way. I had no idea that there have been so many sightings of similar creatures in Missouri and in our county as well. I'm going to look through some more of the stories of sightings after I submit this. I'm curious to see if anyone else has reported a white creature before. It feels great to share my story with someone who might be able to tell me what it was that day. Someone who might have seen something like this before for themselves before.
So Yeti on defrost? Is that what they're saying?
Well, it sounded like she said between 4 and 6 feet tall. That's not a very big one.
Yeah, but she talked about it being a hot day and how
Yeah.
big they were. I guess she thinks it's on defrost and it shrunk down a little bit because of the heat.
Down a little bit. Well, if it's between 4 and 6 feet tall, was covered with white hair, albino.
Hey,
Because you would
maybe.
think most of the white Bigfoot stories I've heard before almost sound like an elderly one, like that.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
turned white.
I mean,
But then again, melanistic animals appear in
yeah. I mean,
pretty much all species.
and you got. I mean, I don't know if there's any piebalds in primate species like they are in ungulates, but that's a possibility.
Well, there was a video on floating around Facebook the other day of a hunter who actually filmed two white deer together. They were both bucks and looked to be a couple of years old apiece. Um, they weren't big, but they were both white, and it is extremely rare to see one, let alone two.
Yeah.
Just a guy says, would you speculate this to be an occurrence of albinism, or is there a tribe that speaks of white Sasquatch? I've heard reports of white Bigfoot before. They're generally a little bit more rare than most Bigfoot encounters. And since this one was small like that, I would be willing to bet it was probably a juvenile.
Or like you said, it could have been elderly because I mean, we shrink.
You'd think it would be 4 to 6 feet tall. If it
But
was that old, it would be pretty big in stature. You'd think.
We shrink when we get older too, though. So maybe it wasn't. If it's on the closer to the 6 inch, if it's a female and it was closer to the 6 foot side, maybe it was 7 or 8 feet. And it's, I would assume osteoporosis and stuff like that can affect primates just like it does us. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean,
she didn't mention it looking stooped or moving like it was elderly. She said it was moving fluid and she could barely hear any noise. So I'm still leaning toward probably a juvenile. Maybe not piebald like you were saying, but melanistic. I mean, that's just what they refer to black panthers as here in Missouri. They're just melanistic mountain lions. Because the one my cousin and I saw when we were teenagers, it definitely looked like a mountain lion. It was just completely black.
Yeah, I mean,
had that big like pink panther ropey tail.
Could very well be.
Steve Patton says, or it just got a hold of some paint. I don't know. Maybe something scared him until his hair turned white, or maybe he just bleached it. I don't know. But I don't know. The size of it and as fluid as it moved makes me think it was a juvenile, and the coloration makes me think it was probably melanistic or albinism. She said the eyes looked bigger, but she didn't really describe a color. She said darker. So okay, yeah. So if they were darker, that's not albinism because the eyes would be pink. No, it's got to be melanistic.
Yeah.
It's fairly typical behavior. It wasn't acting aggressive. It just seemed to be unaware she was there until she stuck her head out the door. I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys think this is legit sighting? I mean, there's nothing in it to make me think it was, fantastical or she was making it up for attention. Chris Burkhardt says, "What's more soulless, gingers or albinos?" Never dated an albino. I can tell you, the gingers are pretty crazy sometimes.
Jason Dawson, maybe it was a Billy Idol fan.
Yeah. Nice day for a white Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, little Bigfoot, what have you done? Uh, I don't know. What do you think? What makes the most sense to you?
I mean, like you said with the eyes, I don't think it's albinism because she said the eye color was dark. And I mean, it could very well be something that's just one in a million thing. Miss Lene was making a joke, but she said dwarf squatch. I mean, I would assume that
Maybe.
dwarfism could
Sure
affect
have
them
been.
too. Maybe maybe it was just some kind of birth defect. It was short and turned out white.
Based on the behaviors and the way she described it in the sighting, I think it's a legit sighting. I can't think of why
And
it
you
would
would
be that
think
size and white.
if something like that happened, are they going to be like other animal species and kick something like that out of the clan, herd, pack, whatever you want to call them? Or
Well, most times in nature, when an animal is born melanistic or or a different color, uh, well, like for example with crows and ravens, if and they are occasionally born completely white. It's not albinism; they're just born white, and the rest of the flock. Well, it's actually a murder of crows and an unkindness of ravens, but the rest of the group will shun them. The white ones are generally chased off. They're not allowed to breed. They're not allowed to remain part. Uh, but in with deers, uh, being with deer being in the forest and being bright white, predators are going to spot them a lot easier. So that's why most of those are pretty rare. So you would think in most cases, ones that are melanistic white probably die out earlier than the others.
yep. So I mean, maybe it was younger. Maybe that's why it was by itself. Maybe that's why it was just standing there looking around like it didn't know what was going on because it wasn't old enough to be out by itself normally.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting encounter story,
Yeah,
and
it
I
hadn't,
like the details of it, but I'm still kind of scratching my head trying to figure out why it would be
or it was
white.
put it was put out and it hadn't been taught to stay away from things like us and hide. But or
Or it
maybe
could have been like either of us when we were 10 or 12 years old and just took off out screwing around looking at stuff.
could be. Thing is, who knows? Because there's studies been done on it. So bless you,
Sorry. Here we go.
bless you.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I was trying to catch up with some of the comments.
Yep. No passing Bigfoot without sunscreen.
Thank you, Cajun. Um, Cajun says if it was a youngster, its folks could have brought him out to DA's house to babysit. Yeah, that would be interesting. Of course, I would have been, feeding it pizza and getting selfies with it. I've been like FaceTime and Robbie, like, would you look at what's in the backyard?
Hey, it's
Hey,
Uckmuck.
no!
It's Uckmuck.
Yeah, Uckmuck's in the house. We need an Uckmuck T-shirt too.
Yep.
Just right, like man. Yeah, pretty much. Your turn, Robbie. You want to pick another story?
Yep, I got one.
Cajun says just don't invite Margolin. Yeah, it could get bad.
Oh, Margolin. All right. This is from Walker County, Alabama in 1969. I was 9 years old and lived about a half a mile down the road from an old church and a cemetery. There were two other old houses there that no one lived in. There were strange things happening quite often around where I lived back then. I remember one strange thing that happened very well. My dad worked evenings from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., just 3 miles down the road from our house. My mom, sister, and I had just gone to bed, and we started to hear a bumping sound that was coming from the back of the house. My sister and I ran from the bedroom we shared into the back of the house in the back of the house to the front of the house where my mom and dad's bedroom was. My sister and I were scared, so mom let us sleep with her until dad came home at 11 that night. Their bedroom had two windows side by side on the front of the house, right above the porch. You could see through the curtains at night due to the street light out front. We were lying there. We were lying there after not hearing any more noise when all of a sudden we heard something on the front porch. Mom saw it first and sat up in bed. That made my sister and I notice her staring out the window. When we turned our gaze from mom to the window, we saw what looked like a very large dog on the front porch. It was walking up to the front. It was walking to the front door upright on its back legs. When it reached the front door, it shook it violently. It was as tall as the door, and we could see it scratching on the screen door with its front paws. It remained there for what seemed to be like 15 minutes, but it was probably only like a minute or two. Mom didn't say a word for the first minute. For the first minute or two, she just shushed us until it turned and walked away about 10 feet, or walked away about 10 feet on its back legs. Just before it reached the steps and went down them, it went down on all fours. Mom told us to go back to sleep, and we eventually did. I don't remember her telling my dad, but I do remember this well. It was 6 to 6.5 feet tall, while standing upright on its back legs. You could see all the facial features, its ears, snout, and head. The features made it resemble a German Shepherd. We hadn't seen anything that looked or acted like that thing. We hadn't seen anything that looked or acted like that thing in the area before that night, and a lot of strange things sure happened there. I can't say it was a dog man, but it did walk on its back legs for several feet. Another time when I was young, my sister and I, who shared that back bedroom of the house, was bedroom with at the time was at our grandma's house spending the night. I had gone to bed but wasn't asleep yet. My mom had her bedroom window open so the air could get in because it was a hot night. The back of our house was high off the back of her house was high off the ground. Consequently, the bottom of my bedroom window was about 8 feet off the ground. I had been lying there on my back when I rolled over onto my stomach toward the window. My foot went off the bed on the window side and wound up being only a few inches from the window. All of a sudden, something touched my foot. I don't remember if it grabbed my foot or what, but the screen ripped and the curtain fell. I screamed. I scrambled off the bed and out of my bedroom into the living room where mom was. She had heard the commotion and saw that I was frightened. She asked me what was wrong, so I told her what had happened. She went into my bedroom and saw the hole in the screen and the curtain was down. She also saw how it was hanging halfway out of the window. She knew I did. She didn't know what to think, so she called Dad home from work. He came home to check it out and walked around the house. Before coming in, he said he didn't see anything. At first, he didn't believe Mom. It wasn't until he saw the curtain was hanging out the window that he believed her. He couldn't figure it out though. We didn't have any problems with prowlers, and at first, they thought that I'd stuck my foot through the screen. I don't think that was what happened because I wasn't sleeping yet. I just couldn't have done that. And that's the end of that one.
That one's interesting.
That's
I mean, how many times have you heard stories of people what they call prowlers? I mean, when I worked out at Walnut Grove, we got prowler calls fairly routinely, and you saw how how rural that little town is.
Yeah.
It's got woods butting up, on three sides of that town. So I wonder how many other, country families have had a prowler that was,
Well,
not it turns out not to be a person.
we've talked about that. I mean, how many calls have we been dispatched to that were prowlers, but weren't really prowlers, but somebody they saw
The
something.
eyewitness refuses to describe the person they
Yeah,
saw.
they saw
Like,
something.
it was just dark shaped and they were over there.
Yeah. So, because I never really thought about that before we had a couple of shows and people started asking questions like that to us. I never really thought, and even though Pickens is a rural city, it's a small rural city. There's a lot of woods around it, and you think, it's not like a big bustling metropolis. So, it very.
When we lived on our farm north of Lebanon, out off YY Highway, when we lived out there when I was a kid back in the 70s, we didn't have central air. We had an old fuel oil heater in the wintertime, but we didn't have air conditioning. When it was hot out, you slept with the windows open and a fan if you had a fan.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a kid, because Dad worked a lot of nights, a lot of overnights at the steel plant in town in Detroit Tool in Lebanon. And he worked a lot of overnights there, and he would come home and sleep for a few hours, then work the farm. And I remember my older brother, Buddy, who was the oldest of the boys still at home, sleeping with a shotgun next to the bed because we were having prowler issues, usually around my sister's windows.
Yeah, I mean, at my great grandparents' house, where I had my first sighting, that's the way it was. There was no central air, so yeah, I've slept over there many times on summer nights and with windows open. And I used, because my great grandmother, she had those braces on her legs, so she had one of those beds that you could, the old timey ones with the adjustable beds, so she
Like a
could sleep.
hospital bed.
Yeah, so I would always sleep in the bedroom of my great grandpa, and there was a window right beside that bed, and I slept on that side of the window. And there's plenty of times that window was open, so that's why people have asked that question. I'm sure that thing had seen me plenty of times before. So if it wanted me, didn't knew where I was at, it could have reached in that window, and it could have, as we used to say back then, it could have reached in that window and got me.
That's the thing though. I mean, so many people back in those days. I mean, look at before modern air conditioning was even a thing. I mean, even up until the 1970s and 80s, I think I was a junior in high school before we got our first AC unit. We just didn't have it.
Yeah.
We were pretty dirt poor hillbilly folks here in Missouri, and we just didn't have all the fancy modern conveniences like we burned wood to stay warm, and if we didn't grow it or trade for it, we didn't have it. I mean, it was pretty lean times. But looking back at it, I mean, the food was so much better because everything was either raised right there on the farm or came from a neighboring farm. It wasn't all the chemicals that's in all of our food today. We knew who our neighbors were and we liked them. I mean,
it was a different time back then.
Cajun, we did have a hot water heater. We did have that much. Mark says, DA, people are wanting you to turn your volume up. My volume is all the way up on my mic. I don't know what's going on with it. We've even got Robbie's mic volume turned way down. I don't know what's wrong with this. I mean, I think the soundboard has even got it turned all the way up. I'll see what Noah can do. Let me text Noah. I don't think he's listening. I texted Noah. I don't know if he's going to see it. Dr. 45 says, I think maybe you back away from the mic. Sometimes I'm trying to keep them. I mean, the mic is literally this far from my mouth. I mean, it is just right here, just below the camera. I mean, you'll see the green screen kick in on it as I lift it up. It's literally right there. I've got the same color as my green screen pop filter on my mic, and it just disappears off the camera. But the mic is literally 6 inches from my mouth. I mean, even when if I turn my head, it does have a condenser right in the front, so it's probably losing something if I move or don't if I'm not directly in line with it. But I can't figure out why
But
it's
see,
so low.
some people say they hear you just fine. Some people can't. I think it's something I don't think it's on your end. I think it's something through YouTube and settings like that.
Well,
because if it
it
was,
could be this board too. I mean,
but it seemed like if it was that, then everybody would have trouble hearing you.
true. It's only some people that seem to have trouble hearing me.
Because see,
Tito's and me.
Tito says you're fine. Chris says you're better than most nights. There was a couple others that said you sound fine too. So I mean, I think
It may be on YouTube's end. But I may see what we can do about switching out that soundboard. I mean, I've got a better one, but we've never been able to figure out how to make it work. This old one's always been pretty good standby, but I may talk to Noah and see about swapping out to that new one, see if that doesn't fix things. Oh, yeah, I guess it's my turn. Let me select one. See if how big this one is. It's not very big, but kind of interesting. It's a dogman sighting from Shelby County, Tennessee, near Memphis. It says data unknown. I just thought I'd report this as a potential dogman hearing, not sighting. Multiple co-workers of mine in a Shelby County, Tennessee medical facility have heard a strange creature screaming and making crystal clear sounds behind the facility. It's well lit and fenced, but there are woods behind it and also a river bottom nearby. 3 separate people have heard the noise, 2 together and 1 at an earlier time. This was last summer. This most recent event happened within the last month. When discussing it, the third person confided that they had also heard the noise in the pre-dawn hours while getting something from their vehicle, and they couldn't believe it, so they'd never mentioned it to anybody. After hearing the details of what the other 2 heard, the third person confided, all 3 are medical professionals, have outdoor experience, and could not identify the creature making the sounds. It's described as being loud and crystal clear, even though it was from an obvious distance. The call was loud enough to be heard clearly from within a running car with a defroster blowing. This occurred at twilight near 6 to 7 a.m. And it's occurred at twilight and near 6 to 7 a.m. Also, since this occurred near shift change, there were several ladies coming into work who obviously heard the noise too and rushed inside the building, as observed by the 2 who were leaving. So I guess they were hearing some sort of howling sound.
What it sounds like.
That's interesting.
But that's a second hand at least.
Yeah, well, kind of. But it makes me wonder, were they hearing something like this?
Here we go.
And that very howl is going to come into play very soon in a certain book.
Yep.
But I wonder if I could reach out to that person and play that for them and see if that's what they heard.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the better audio clips that I've ever heard of anybody saying anything about a dog, which I don't think they ever actually said this is a dog man, because there was plenty of people on the thread, whatever it was, that was saying that's Bigfoot's up there yelling in the holler.
That sounds more canine than
I just don't think that was Bigfoot. I mean,
that sounded canine and it sounded big.
But there's plenty of people that said that they hear stuff like that all the time up there.
Cajun Dog says, my puppies just glared at my phone. LS 420 says, thanks for the nightmares tonight.
That's 15 miles from my house. So
Jennifer says, just woke her cat up. That's funny. just here and there said my last phone would turn the sound up, down, and off all on its own. That is a very creepy howl.
Yeah.
If we'd have heard that down in Joe Bald, I might be considering never going down there again.
I'm surprised that you still want to go down there after seeing what was behind you in the video that time.
Well, I'm not the brightest bulb, right, bro? I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed sometimes.
No, I mean, I know why I keep going, because I'm stupid and I don't care. I'm stupid. But, you know, that's me. You're supposed to be the smart one of the group.
Hey, look at that. Says I've heard that twice around Pickens and Dacusville.
Dacusville. Yeah. That's my hometown. That's where I'm at. That's where I is right now.
So right there in your neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm. That howl was about 15-ish miles. I mean, depending on which way you go, it's not it.
All righty, dude. It's your turn.
All right. All right. This is from Gwinnett County, Georgia. 4/30 of 1974. So this darn thing's as old as I am. The season is spring and the classification is B. So we actually got a classification on this one, which I know that none of the ones I've had classifications. I don't know if yours did or not. 7 miles from the Chattahoochee River, a couple miles from Norcross.
Now I'm hearing Alan Jackson in my head.
I am too. I started to sing it, but I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
Way down yonder on the Chattahoochee.
Bigfoot's hotter than it. Never mind. I'm sure he is, though, with all that hair.
No kidding.
The incident took place in Gwinnett County, a couple miles away from Norcross. The area used to be much more residential and underdeveloped than it is now. Well, that sounds familiar. The Chattahoochee River was about 7 miles away, and I assumed that this creature had made its way from that direction. I had consequently learned that the area had several incidents of sightings over the previous years, or the years previous to mine. The events that led up to my sighting occurred over a 4-month period in the spring of '74. Since then, I've always wished that I could go back and get a close-up of the creature. The incident started one day in a swampy area. My friends and I were building a fort with bamboo stalks when we noticed that the animal sounds in the woods had disappeared, and it was deathly quiet. Now, that sounds familiar too. Then we heard a large branch snap. We got scared as the sound had come from only 50 to 75 feet behind us in that swampy part of the bottoms. We imagined a psychopath with a large knife and proceeded to quietly leave the area in single file. Single file. All hands on deck. That's what I'd have been doing. That is when we heard an animal scream and run towards us by the sound of stomps in the leaves. Afterwards, we discussed what it could have possibly made such a noise. A monster? What? We did not know, but somewhere in the conversation, the possibility of Bigfoot came up, and that seemed more plausible to our 14-year-old minds. In the subsequent weeks, we found tracks, 5-toed and 3-toed, but never a trail of them. We would hear far-off animal cries, or animal sounds rather, and such. We even found an area of pushed-down grass a few days later in the spot we figured the screams had come from. We had mounted an expedition to look for the creature. 14-year-olds are mounting an expedition to look for the creature a few days after the sounds, after the initial incident, and had left our shoe prints in the middle of the mud and sand. A couple of days after that, a few of us went back and we discovered something very peculiar. In addition to the three-toed tracks, we found a series of tracks that looked like bare feet of children following our trail of footprints. I am convinced to this day that the creature that had screamed at us was probably a female with babies. This is the only time we found tracks that looked, or excuse me, that we found a trail of tracks. Another time, we had found further back in the woods a large footprint shape with no discernible features such as toes, etc., on the side of the small creek. On the other side, we found another in the mud, which appeared to be the opposite foot. These two footprints were several feet away from each other and big, or several feet away from each other, which was a big step. I have a picture of the second print. Anyhow, my friend Mike and I would walk up to the bus stop in the early morning hours as the dawn began to eventually brighten the sky. He came to my house one morning with excitement in his voice as he told me that he had seen a shadow of the creature across his backyard as he got dressed. He lived just 2 doors over, and there were sections of the woods that ran up behind our houses. He told me that he had heard a neighbor's dog barking wildly and could hear the creature running through the woods behind the houses. I wasn't sure if he could be believed, but I was too excited by the prospect to be skeptical. As we walked to the bus stop, we proceeded to look back down the street to our cul-de-sac. The way these things are written. I'm having to interpret what he meant and try to put it in legible terms.
It's a little tough.
Yeah. Because he meant cul-de-sac, but he spelled it Calusac. The street our cul-de-sac turned off of as it dead ended at petroleum pipeline field. Goodness gracious. Is it dead ended at a petroleum pipeline field? Which I'm sure is what he meant. That's not what he typed.
Yeah.
With a swamp on the other side. There was also some woods on the left of the street with a strip of cleared ground between the edge of the woods and the street. There was one street lamp on a telephone pole down at the near end of the road on the left side, and it was under the lamp that we noticed a large cone-shaped dark area that we knew there had to be a mound of dirt and sticks on there before. Just God almighty, just level ground. As we watched the mound, decided to stand up. Comma should have been prevalent there. As we watched, comma, the mound decided to stand up and walk towards us at the end of the street. However, it turned left, picked up something off the ground, and ducked into the strip of woods there. As we were about 300 feet away from the creature, it appeared dark, gray, and like a shadow. I grabbed Mike's sleeve and said, "We got to get closer." Of course, he didn't want to. The creature was estimated to be about 7 feet tall and quite skinny. It had wide hips, and its arms were almost to its knees. It also had what appeared to be a sagittal crest at the top of its head. I don't know what color it was, but I would guess, from what I subsequently learned about previous sightings in the area from the Grover Krantz books, that it must have been white. It would make sense, would it not, that the Krantz's rogue male groups might very well include any albinos or others with different traits from the majority of the Sasquatch apes that may very well be shunned into a life of wandering the rest of North American continent. On one morning, I believe it may have been that fall, we were walking, Mike and I, up the bus stop and heard a far off tone call in the swamp. I answered back. In a few seconds, we heard it again, but this time it seemed to be closer, not so far off. I called again, and immediately we heard a return call much closer as the creature was moving through the swamp towards us. I called again, and this time it sounded as if it was at the edge of the swamp. Then my stepfather yelled at us out the bedroom window, which is in front of the house on the second floor. They often had their windows open in fair weather. All right, I yelled a few moments later, and we heard the call again, this time from far away, as the first call had been a two-tone call, high-pitched note that turned to a very low-pitched note. It was definitely a call of some sort. Thank goodness I saw that one. Goodness gracious.
Well,
Punctuation means a lot.
well, you got to also take into account that this was written by a 14-year-old kid.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
I think it's an interesting account, but like Mark Napier was pointing out, that maybe, just maybe, they're kind of thinking every hole in the ground's a big footprint.
I agree
But
with
you
that
know, I
statement.
got to give them props. I was just as curious when I was that young,
I
and
was
me and
too.
my friends did that exact same thing. We would go
I
out
was too.
our own little expeditions on our dirt bikes and go out into the woods, and yeah, we did crap like that. So
I was too. I mean, I would have done the same stuff. There's a lot of skeptical stuff in there. I mean, there's some stuff that's interesting, but there's a lot of skeptical stuff in there too.
well, there's
But
things, there's things you can take away from pretty much any report. But even that one has got some interesting details. It's just you've got to take some of it with a grain of salt, considering these aren't exactly trained observers. These are kids that were probably out having
well,
having fun, scaring themselves just as much as they were legitimately researching.
I'm sure he probably didn't write those things. I mean, he did write them down when he was 14, and then he went back and tried to decipher them later, and that was his best, trying to decipher something from 14 to however. Let's see, if it happened in 74 and he was 14, the BFRO started taking stuff in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make him in his 40s, 50s maybe. So I mean, if he didn't remember everything 100% and he was trying to decipher a 14-year-old's writing, maybe that's where some of it came from.
Well, like I said, I do find it interesting. If not, you know, something I would consider 100% reliable, but still an interesting encounter. I mean, I believe they saw something. I just don't know, how much credibility we can put on the observations of a 14-year-old kid, because I'm telling you, dude, when I was 13, 14, every twig snap in the forest was Bigfoot coming to get me.
Oh yeah.
But that was half the fun of it too.
Oh yeah. And he even said it in the very first of it. They were thinking it was some psycho killer coming after him with a butcher knife. They wasn't even thinking Bigfoot at first.
And when I was that age, 3 or 4 of us, we had our little 20-inch dirt bikes, little BMX bikes. Man, we would take off down dirt trails out into the woods and build forts and camp and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's a miracle we survived to adulthood.
Oh yeah.
Go out in the woods to camp with a couple of cans of ravioli and a Boy Scout knife, and that's about it. Maybe a 22.
Well, I mean, think about how much time I spent in those woods that thing was probably living in.
Yeah, well, down there in Moon Valley, back when that was not with them, that was a campground, dude. I used to camp down there all the time as a teenager. We heard some weird crap down in that valley.
I'm not even
made a believer out of Doc in that valley, though. What's the famous line? Thermal don't lie.
Yeah, thermal don't lie, dude. Thermal don't lie. Thermal don't lie, dude. Dude, thermal don't lie. I know thermal don't lie.
Yeah, Doc was certainly no longer on the fence after seeing those 3 shapes on thermal.
And then we go to Blunt Road
and see that thing, sticking up head and shoulders out of the water coming at us. That was the guys the week you guys were here, or the few days you guys were here, wasn't a full week, but the time you guys were here, man, we got into some interesting shit.
It never disappoints.
I told you this area is active.
Very, very active.
John Wayne Gates says Moon Valley sounds interesting. It is an interesting place. If I could find out, and I might be able to through Dallas County records, but if I could find out who owns that land down there in Moon Valley, because that whole clear section over where the caves are, if we could get permission to camp down there, it'd be cool to do a meet and greet down there.
Yeah. What was I just gawking at? I missed something.
I don't know.
While
Oh
rolled.
no, I think he was meaning what Doc saw it on thermal. No, at the point Doc saw it on thermal, Robbie and I were about 50 yards away with our weapons up, advancing on that spot because we'd seen eye shine over there.
Yeah, 50 yards away from Doc, not 50 yards away from what Doc was seeing. We were only about 15 feet away from that.
Yeah, we were almost on top of what Doc was seeing on thermal, and he's like, "Boys, stop! Boys, stop! Boys, stop! You guys might want to start backing up."
And we weren't gawking at that because it was totally black for DA and I. It was dark. We didn't have any. We couldn't see anything, so there was no gawking.
Yeah,
no gawking going on.
Extended though. I would be very interested to get a group down there, and if they'd let us camp in that area.
Where were you talking about again? I was reading that comment trying to figure out
down in Moon Valley, down on the far side where the big open valley is, where those caves are back on that bluff. On the opposite side of the river from that parking area.
Why do you want to camp around the freaking cannibals? Dang.
They can't eat all of us.
I'll camp around a freaking Dogman and Bigfoot all night long. I don't want to camp around the damn cannibals.
Well, I know we ain't going to get permission to camp in Joe Bald or Combs Ferry. That ain't going to happen. Those are verboten, as they say.
You know, if I'm et by a Bigfoot or a Dogman, that's one thing. I don't want to be et by no cannibal.
And there was legit cannibal crap going on up there. Now you guys can Google that one. Google, Dallas County, Missouri cannibals. Consult the Google.
Or just watch Wrong Turn.
Dude, I tell you, that one place where all those cars parked over in that field, the cop in me would love to get some of those VIN numbers and run them.
Watch Wrong Turn. And all will be revealed.
But I have the distinct feeling if we were found in that field copying down VIN numbers, we might be in the stew pot.
No, I'll be, as Johnny said, driving some Buicks downrange from the 458.
Well, it would be one of those things if we could camp down there. Of course, this is Missouri. It's a constitutional carry state, so I can't see any of us as being unarmed.
Yes, very, very much so. Very, very heavily to the teeth, as it were.
Just a guy says, DA, could it be possible to use a burner sorts of drone to copy those VINs? Maybe you could park up the road and send a drone in there and get some of those VIN numbers, but it would take somebody with a lot better drone flying skill than me.
Or me. I mean, I've got a drone that could probably see, but I don't think I could. It'd probably get shot out of the sky too by some.
I have the uncanny ability to crash a drone into thin air. I don't know. There's nothing there, and I'll send it spiraling into the ground. I suck at flying my drone. I'm not very good at it. I was trying to fly it around the backyard one day, and it just crashed. I mean, I didn't even hit nothing. It just went down.
Yeah, Noah's right. It'd have to be a small drone.
My drone's pretty small. Maybe Noah can figure out how to fly it. I mean, that one you gave me, hell, it ain't much bigger than that.
Yeah, and the one I got to replace is about that big. So,
so of the two, mine would be less likely to be seen. Hey, they might not even see it if we approached it from up the road and did the back rows of those cars and kept it low.
You talking about going? When we normally come up there, we turn left coming out and go back down towards Bennett Springs that way. Are you talking about coming in from the other way?
Yeah, go to the right there up Double O Highway and park somewhere up the road.
Yeah, because that feels a lot more open that way. And
we just have to make sure we're parking where they can't see us.
Yeah.
Just here and there says, DA, I'll get my grandson to teach you. Either that or we'll just have him fly it in. One of the two.
Maybe. I think
just a guy says, DA, only problem is we're explaining all our plans out loud. True, but I don't think any of the cannibals in Moon Valley are watching this show. It ain't like we're reaching millions of viewers.
Yeah, I don't think that we've drove by their house. I don't think they're sitting out in the front porch drinking moonshine, wondering who their next meal is going to be.
Yeah. But, makes me wonder.
And it wasn't going to be Doc because he wasn't going to stop and look at that little creepy doll house.
He wouldn't look at it. Nope.
There it is, Doc. Nope.
He wouldn't even look. Dr. 40 says, how about parking from the campground road? That's pretty far. I'm not sure the battery would get it that far.
And you'd have to fly way back through or up over top of a bunch of trees, and then you'd have to come down low. And the thing when you get over when you're bringing a drone down from a height, you usually have to bring it down in one position. So it makes a lot of noise when you're coming down because it's in one spot. Basically, it's in one column of air. So that's.
Chris Burkhart says, "Are there?" Well, I'll bring it up and share the screen.
Yes, Chris, legit. Or at least there were 2 that were arrested. There's probably more that didn't get charged with it.
Oh, it's even got a picture of the house before it burned. I found a good one.
Ooh, that's good because we didn't get to see the house.
House is burnt down. But here you go. That's the house before it got burnt down. Authorities: missing Missouri woman was killed and dismembered. Buffalo, Missouri. 2 men were charged with first-degree murder Wednesday. This was in 2019. After human remains were found at a Southwest Missouri home, were identified as a missing woman who was photographed partially nude inside a cage, authorities said. James Phelps and Timothy Norton are also charged with abandonment of a corpse after DNA tests positively identified the remains found at Phelps' home near Lebanon. Well, it's actually closer to Buffalo than it is to Lebanon, but that's neither here nor there. But the article does not say that what it's actually speculated. They think that over probably the span of about 30 years, these guys probably ate dozens and dozens of people, God knows how many, and that they were not alone. Before the highway patrol could search the house, it burnt down. Like right after those guys were arrested, it burnt to the ground. Those 2, they went to prison based on the evidence of the one woman whose remains they found, but they would not admit to anything else. And the people down there do not like you to talk about it. Noah says, yeah, but who gives a crap about Buffalo? Good point. Yeah, this happened in 2019 near Windyville, Missouri. Yeah, Saturday, October 3rd, 2021. So I guess that was taken in 2021, but it burnt down before the investigation really began. So it was 2021, not 2019. So it was even more recently than I thought. I was thinking it was 2019. Yeah. And yeah, they believe they charged him with 1 count, but from what I was told, all through here and then behind the house, they found small chunks of bone just scattered around the place like rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can read up about it. There's blogs about it. There's a lot of articles about it. That one's from the Associated Press. There's one from KY3. That's a local news channel. KRCG, which I think is Kansas City. News Channel 10. Yeah, there's just dozens of reports on it. There's even one on Amazon. There's a podcast on Amazon about the Missouri cannibals from September of 2021. So I thought it was 2019. It was 2021. Rolling Stone did an article on it. So I don't know that I put a whole lot of stock in Rolling Stone, but let's just say there's been a lot of folks done stories on it. And yeah, they honestly believe that those guys probably had been doing it for, probably at least 30 years. And that they were not the only ones involved, although they would never tell anybody.
Didn't you say that supposedly they were like giving deer meat to people?
Yeah, supposedly they'd been sharing their deer meat kills with lots of people in the area for years.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's 40 abandoned cars in that field.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet that
As I
was
said,
that whole group
watch
up there was a participant.
watch
But
wrong
that's just
turn.
my opinion. That is
The
just
first
my
wrong
opinion.
turn. Watch the first wrong turn.
Little Patty says, "Yep, they had a taste for long pig with some KC masterpiece on it." They put in the Ray and Sweet Baby Ray's.
Mm-hmm.
Just a guy says would have been a whole Wendigo epidemic if it was more up north. Well, that's why I set Cry of the Wendigo in Moon Valley, was because of the cannibals. That's why I wrote a Wendigo story about Moon Valley, is because there were legit real world cannibals down there. There was also a cult down there for a number of years. It was called the School of Metaphysics, and it was a cult.
And Joe Ball feels weird. Combs Ferry is foreboding, and but not creepy. Joe Ball can be creepy, but it feels creepy and weird. But there's times you go out there and it's just like, oh, okay, this is a normal place. Moon Valley is fucking weird every single time you go out
Even
there.
broad daylight, it's weird.
Yeah. First time he took me there, it was broad daylight, and I got out of the car and I'm like, holy crap, I don't like this place at all. That is a place that my hand goes on my pistol. It stays on it just about the entire time that it's there.
I told you, man, Moon Valley never disappoints.
Even when there's nothing heard or seen, it still
Just
doesn't
feels
disappoint.
weird. Well, while we were down there, when me, you, and Doc and Noah, kind of wish Noah was on here with us talking about that, because we can't get Doc. But when we were on the bridge, at one point we could hear stuff crossing the river out of our ability to see on either side of us, like something walking through the water trying to get around us.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I'm pretty sure we were completely surrounded.
Or very nearly in the process of being completely surrounded.
Yeah. And I think if Doc hadn't spotted those three that he saw on thermal when he did, you and I were about to get into a situation that we probably might not have gotten back out of. We were well extended out of range. Well, would have been in range for Noah, because he's only one of us smart enough to be carrying a long gun. He had the 30-30.
Well, Doc was close enough to grab the which no, you didn't have a shotgun at that time, did you?
Well, it was with us. I just didn't have it out. I had my 1911 in my hand.
Yeah. Doc was close enough. He could have got the SOCOM.
Yeah, but it might have been too late for the two of us idiots.
Maybe.
We were a good 50 yards away from him, within like 30, 40 feet of where he was seeing those thermals.
I think we were closer than that, because I think that was one of the things that kind of unnerved Doc, because when we got back to the hotel room that night, when we sit in his room, he was like, dude, those things are right there. He's y'all close.
Let me do something here. I am going to bring up the Google Earth.
The Google's Earth.
The Google's Earth. Okie doke. Moon Valley. No. Okay. Oh, dude, this is an awesome map too. All right, let me bring this up. I'm going to share this viewing with us. Okay. This is the low water bridge we were on. Hey, Cajun, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, you remember the words of Chesty Puller? They won't get away now. The poor sons of bitches have us surrounded. Now we can shoot in any direction.
That's right. They fell into our trap.
That's right. This area over here, as you can see, used to be the campground. And pull this back a little bit. When I was a teenager, we would camp way down at this end of that field, down by the river. And there was almost never anybody camping down that far. But you can see the old, that's like a, this is part of the old campgrounds buildings. Not much of it left. It's kind of fallen apart. But it used to be like a pavilion with a bunch of picnic tables and the office where you could pay to camp. They also rented canoes down there, and there's a couple of places you can still kind of see some of the old picnic tables, but I don't think you'll be able to see them because of the trees. But this is the Moon Valley Bridge. This is where we were on. Doc and Noah were about here, kind of middle, more to the other side of the river of the bridge, standing by the vehicle, and Robbie and I took off this direction, and where Doc was seeing two of the three thermals was in these trees right here, and the third he saw was over here, coming out of the trees and trying to get across the parking lot. Robbie and I had left the vehicle and gone all the way up here, and we were about here when Doc said, "Hey guys, get back, start backing up." And he said, "There's one trying to get around to your right, because we were facing this direction over here." We made it to almost to this curve in the road, and that's when we kind of stopped and looked at each other and started backing up. And then I covered this direction and Robbie covered that way until we were back out on the bridge. But there was one moving around to completely block us off. And if it had gotten over here and got between us and the truck, well, someone would have had to shot us out, either us or Doc and Noah. But we were very close to being cut off. Isn't that about where we were, Robbie? Like up here?
Yeah, that's a pretty good estimation. Because if the first time he saw something, he just got a flash on thermal. It was right there on the other side of in between the bridge
right
and
in here.
Yeah, right there where your mouse is. But then once it had moved and he lost it or whatever, and we started moving up, and then he saw it, like you said, over about where it says Moon Valley, whatever that said, Moon Valley, whatever, over in the park, just past the red dot in the parking lot. Yeah, access. I couldn't tell what that said. It was somewhere over in that area right there, but it was well past me and you back. It was in between the four of us.
Right about here is where I found all those brass casings that day. I mean, I'm not talking one or two. I'm talking a few hundred expended, looked like 9mm brass. That's the old concrete boat ramp. You can still launch boats there. I would only recommend doing it in the summer because in the winter months, the Niagara gets pretty shallow.
Well, it was shallow last time, just me, you and Noah. Well, when we went back with Nick.
Yeah, in summer, this is usually
Nathan.
Underwater.
Who it was, Nick or Nathan?
Nathan played the what's that stupid thing called? Yeah, the shofar for us.
But it was down that day, or that time rather.
Yeah, when Nathan played the shofar, he was standing right about here, blowing that thing down the valley. I ought to upload that video if I can find it again. I've got the video of him just playing it in the backyard, but I wanted to find the video of him playing it down at Moon Valley.
Well, Cajun, if you remember the short story, that's that low water bridge. That's where that short story took place with the two officers when standoff with the Dogman.
It's called Wrath of the Dogman.
I couldn't remember the name of it. He said it sounds like where the deputy got jumped in Apex Predator Wolf Moon, but that's actually in the short story Wrath of the Dogman.
I could actually bring up the area where the deputy was killed in Wolf Moon. But here's Nathan at on the Moon Valley Bridge playing the shofar. Give me a second. All right, take this from me for a second. I feel like I can't. Oh, that wasn't one of the better ones. Sorry. I'm going to delete that one and upload a different one. Can only upload a max of 300 meg. So I've got to make sure none of them are too big.
Well, if we'd had that thing that night when Doc was out there, woo,
they're all bigger than 300 meg. That's the biggest I can upload. Well, I'll play the one of Nathan playing it in the backyard so you guys can hear that what the shofar sounds like. And yeah, that. Nathan was standing like right about there when he played it down in the valley, and then over here too. He played it in both directions, and we got responses. We could hear the roar coming from like down this way and down
yeah, but it was
this side of the valley.
it
But
was a
distant
long
and
ways
never
off.
got close. I will bring up. Why is that not wanting to let me type? What the heck is going on? Okay.
Judy McKee said our cats just went crazy.
Okay, there's Bennett Springs. Prosperine is way down there. What is it? Kinfolk Road. There we go. There's Prosperine access. Okay, too far down. Would have been right about in here where the deputy was killed. Henderson, I think his name was. And this is a very rugged and woolly area. Ain't a whole lot of people live out here. Yeah. Find something real quick. That's too far. That's Haha Tonka.
That's somewhere we've never got a chance to go to either.
I need to take you up there. You'll like it. There's Eldridge.
That's where which one was it? Was it Horn Moon?
No, that was still in Wolf Moon. That was where the big final fight was.
Still Wolf Moon? I was thinking that was
the end of Wolf Moon.
Huh.
Trying to find the right spot. Sorry. Somewhere out here was my Uncle Buddy's place. I'm trying to find it on the map. They've changed the name of the road, but that's Jay Matoska. This is where Jay Matoska's house is. It's based on my uncle's house. Okay, so I would say that's the turn off. Yep. This is new. This was not here. It's a trailer. It wasn't there when Uncle Buddy was alive. just his house, and that's like a little. It's not really a garage because it's not got garage doors on it. It's like a long open shed. That trailer house was not there, and this house down here was not there because that used to be his land. But Jay Matoska's house is this house right here, and that's the Niagara River right there. The same river that runs through Moon Valley.
Yep.
Man, I grew up hunting and fishing that. Where I got that deer kill stolen, right over in here. I had a deer stand. Oh, it was a little farther back because it was near a clearing. Yeah, it would have been my deer stand probably was in one of these trees right in here because there was the pond and the clearing, and I shot it and it dropped over here. And by the time I got out of my tree stand and got over there, it had got up and wandered off. And I tracked it down past the driveway into this dry wash down here. That dry wash is right in there. I tracked it about a mile before it dropped. And that's where I radioed Uncle Buddy and told him what I'd found. And he told me to get the hell out of there because we weren't allowed to hunt over here at all. If we hunted his place or camped, we hunted over here in this area and camped down here on this end. You weren't allowed to camp down here on this end in the river or hunt this area up here. And that is all unbroken woods, heavy duty woods. And there are very few houses out there. Even
Yep.
So when I talk about Jay Matoska's house being in the middle of nowhere, yeah, it would have been this land completely untouched, except for that trailer wouldn't be there and that house wouldn't be there because those were added in after he passed away because his daughter sold the land off. And God, I would have given anything to have been able to got that. That is remote freaking country. Don't get much more remote than that.
Nope.
Anyway, let me get that back to.
And too bad Uncle Buddy ain't around. That'd be a good place for us to.
Oh God, yeah.
Set up redneck base camp.
Yeah, he had 160 acres of his own that was right up against like 50,000 acres of conservation land or something like that.
Mm. We could definitely set up
there. That conservation land was roads.
We could definitely set up an RNBC.
Yeah, just Ryan. Yeah, that is the butt crack of nowhere. Cajun says, if I recall correctly, that's not far from Old Lost in the Woods. That's actually pretty far from Leonard Wood. Leonard Wood is, well, I'd have to bring the map back up, but it's northeast of his land, probably hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Yeah, Fort Leonard Wood is up just outside of St. Robert, and that's the closest town to Uncle Buddy's land is Eldridge, Missouri, and Eldridge ain't exactly a town as most people know it. It's a few houses and a wide spot in the road. Lebanon is the nearest. Lebanon or Camdenton is the nearest big town, and they're not even. Roxanne says, "DA, how was the officer killed? What officer?
We're talking about one of the ones from the books.
Oh, from the one in the book. Yeah, he got picked off by Longa Dog Lala in Wolf Moon. Yeah, he was killed by a pack of Longa Dog Lala. Dogmen got him.
He was ate by a wolf and shot over a cliff, as Dot would say.
Yeah, they didn't find much of him. They found his hand. They didn't find him. Yeah, Sonia, I'm right there with you. I would have given anything had that land been able to stay in the family. But Uncle Buddy's daughters sold it, and now it's gone. We'll never get it back. I mean, I could probably buy all that land individually from people if I went down there. If I won the lottery or got a Netflix deal and had millions of dollars, I could probably go down there and offer them twice what they paid for it and probably get it. But it would take stupid money to be able to get that back in the family. And I would, man, that is one of the most beautiful. I know this has nothing to do with Bigfoot or anything like that, but that land was just so beautiful. There was so many trees, and his house actually sits on a bluff overlooking the Niagara River. And he had a garden down in the river valley that he tended every year. And we would get up before dawn when I was out at his house, grab a cup of coffee, and go out and sit on the deck and watch the sunrise over the valley and the mist off of, and especially in the summertime, the fog coming off of that river would fill that valley. And you could, it looked like, there were times it looked like you could step off his balcony and walk across that valley without touching the ground. It was just one of the most, it was one of the most beautiful places in the world to me. And it's lost to me. And I'm deeply saddened by the fact that I will never get to be out there anymore because
Yep. Same
yeah,
here. The
just one of those
last of the 180 plus acres that my great grandfather owned around here is the acre that my house is on, 2 acres in between mom and dad's, a little bit over an acre that they're on, and a little bit of acre that my uncle's on. Everything else is owned by somebody else now.
Well, the land that our farm was on was right up against an even bigger dairy farm, and it's all houses now. Last time I was up in Lebanon, I drove out that way, and really kind of made me sick to my stomach that all of that farmland was now subdivisions. Now, even our farm, our farmhouse was still there, but there's a whole subdivision behind it in our whole field. Sorry, I got a little maudlin there. If I ever won a big lottery settlement or got a Netflix deal or something like that, and I had stupid amounts of money, I would make an attempt to buy that land back. But I would get that trailer house off of it and probably just bulldoze the other house down by the river. And it just needs to be in Uncle Buddy's house, and it needed to be preserved. Dr. 45 said, I know how you feel when my aunt sold out east of Lebanon, out off East 32. My brother still lives out off East 32, out toward Nebo, out just outside of Nebo. Nebo is another one of those towns that we refer to as a poke and plum town, because it's nothing but a general store / post office. I think it's got a gas pump. We call it a poke and plum town because you poke your head out the window and you're plumb through it. Mrs. Moon says my grandparents' homestead's all subdivisions now too. Yeah, it breaks the heart to see, areas that I used to deer hunt in and places that I used to fish, now just gone. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm waxing a little maudlin. Maybe we ought to do another story and kind of change the subject a bit. But yeah, that you guys got a really good look of the Google Earth view of Moon Valley, of exactly where we were. Oh, hey, we could bring up the Google Earth of Combs Ferry too.
Oh, there you go.
Let's do that. Let me share this screen. It's weird that it's got the water and kind of whited out. I'm not getting why it's doing that. But this is actually all water. I don't know why it's looking like that. But the last house out there is not even on the same peninsula. There's just a couple houses over here on the other peninsula. But this is where you actually turn to go into Combs Ferry. This is all heavily wooded. And then once you get out here, this is where, the water is way down on this. We were standing, this is what's left of the old boat launch. We were standing with our feet in the water, me, Noah, and Robbie, standing with our feet in the water as we were getting surrounded. But the lake is way down here. You can't even see that the old shack. I don't know why you can't see that bulldozed wall. That bulldozed wall should be right about here, but it ain't showing up on this image. Right back in here is where we found the Missouri tree trout and the deer leg. And then way back here is where we found the most recent deer part. Initially, we put in on the first entry in there, we put in somewhere around in there and then hiked all the way around. This is a lot of land to cover, especially on foot. So
Yep.
we walked all the way around to the edge of the peninsula and then ended up back here. And the only reason we pulled out there instead of going back around to where we were originally at is because his leg was hurt. I think it's just weird reflection on the water.
Noah said it's them patching a bunch of different satellite images together.
Oh. Yeah, he's probably right. But this gives you a really good view of Combs Ferry. You can see the roads where there used to be, for the campers and stuff. It's all tore up now. Most of it's just not even really a road anymore. But I wish it would let you see some of the campsites because they are just absolutely destroyed. There's nothing left of the campsites. Over in Joe Bald, it looks like you could go in with some trimmers and a mower and clean up the areas around the campsites and just go back to camping there. But it ain't like that in Combs Ferry. Combs Ferry is almost post-apocalyptic. Here's Joe Bald. This is the entrance to the park. There's one loop and the other loop. Right down here is where right over here was where the deputy was killed in Lakeview Man. But we've been all through this area. Robbie and I, in fact, right over here, where that car is parked, is where Noah had to Robbie wrangle the first time because Robbie was heading off into these woods by himself.
Who, me?
Right over in here is where we found that license plate.
Yep.
Somebody was down here doing something. Can't tell what that is. Again, the lake looks really low. But this boat ramp is still in use. People still come down and launch boats here. It's not uncommon to find a truck or two down here with a boat trailer on it parked while someone's out fishing. But the majority of the park is just completely overgrown. And considering how much property sells for down there on the lake, it's astounding that this has not been developed.
Dr. 45 wants to know where the 24-hour service vans were when we saw them that first time, DA.
The first one was parked right about here.
Oh, we passed the first one coming out.
Well, that's right. The first one was leaving. We were coming out. I think we were pulling out of, I want to say, maybe it was this road right here. Maybe we were pulling out and he was going this way. He was like he was exiting. But then when we got down here, that other one was parked over here. And every time we would move, it would move. And then when we found those tracks right about in here.
Yeah, right, somewhere right in there.
And we were going to come back in the morning and cast them. And after we left, he drove down in there and drove over them. Destroyed the tracks. But you can see how thick that is. Yes, there are houses nearby. There's quite a few houses just outside the park. But there is absolutely nothing in there. This is the spot that I envision Clark's family cabin to be, out there at the end of Thistle Lane. But you know, it's obviously it's not there. There is a house there, but it's not Clark's cabin. So don't go out there and piss those people off, because I'm sure they don't know. But just look how thick those woods are, and if the land is still being sold out there and houses are still being built, why has none of this been developed? I mean, that is lakefront property on one of the most popular tourist lakes in the state. Oh, maybe I should show Blunk Road too. Okay. Out here along the James River, where these cars are parked, is where we had all the weirdness happening to us the night we were down there.
Yep.
What we saw in the water would have been right out here coming toward us. There's a whole area up here that looks like be pretty easy to get back into and set up a camp. There's no posting for no camping down there. We could camp at Blunk Road without getting in trouble.
Yep. Every time I head up there, though, I get wrangled back.
Because there's always something weird going on down there.
Technicalities.
And you can see there's not very many houses down that way. The James River heads actually down this way, and then this is actually part of Table Rock Lake. That's where James River starts flowing into Table Rock. So it is right up the river from joining Table Rock Lake. So that thing that was coming toward us was actually coming against the current.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So the current goes this way, and it was coming this way right at us. And that water's fairly deep. Anyway, what do y'all think of that?
I know Doc can drive a big SUV out of there quickly if he needs to.
Yes, we did unask the AO rather quickly. Just a guy who yaps says, DA, what are you ever going to do with that juvenile Gugway that's been in T Moden's possession since Lakeview Man First Duty? They just use it for training purposes. They're just going to keep it to basically shock the new recruits. Like, this is what we're up against. If anybody that's like, oh, those things don't exist, we're like, well, here's one if you want to see it. So they probably keep it around and keep it in like an enclosure, so they can study it and expose team members to what they're up against. Yeah, I'm telling you, they definitely use it to train the dogs.
Bjorn, Eagle.
Okay, let me find another one to read. I've read some from Missouri. I'm just going to select one at random. Okay. This is in Halifax County, Virginia. It says travelers observe lumbering figure along roadside near Danville. The location was about halfway between Staunton River State Park and Danville, Virginia, on Route 58, at a fairly sharp left-hand bend in the road. Since this happened 4 years ago, I can tell you I've been somewhat haunted by it. How I came to believe what I saw was a Gigantopithecus or something very like it took time to develop, and just tonight, after reading the news item about the expedition to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and found this site and seeing Bill Munn's model of Giganto on rattles off the website. I'm convinced I saw something out of the ordinary. After driving in from our home in New York, my daughter and I were staying in a cabin for a few days at the Staunton River State Park, Virginia, with a friend of hers from Virginia. On the night in question, I had to drive to Danville to pick up and bring back another daughter who was coming in from Greensboro to stay with us for the weekend. Her bus didn't pull into Danville until around 11 p.m., so I left the park around 9. It was a dark, rainy drive with some patchy but not heavy fog. Because of the conditions and my unfamiliarity with the road, I concentrated more on driving than noticing much of the surroundings. At some point around halfway, I was coming around a wide bend to the left when my headlights fell upon a broadside view of what I first thought was a huge dog, just off the road and moving from left to right. It simply turned its head to look at the lights and lumbered slowly but deliberately toward the tree line. It was then I realized it was no dog. Maybe a lion? It had huge eyes like a lion as well as a mane, but it wasn't shaped like a lion. It was big in the front, big head, big shoulders and chest, but more streamlined to the rear, walking on all fours, but not like a dog or a big cat. The front legs seemed taller than the rear. If you remember the monster from the sci-fi movie Forbidden Planet, you'll have a pretty good idea of its shape. Not, of course, as exaggerated as that, but similar. It did not appear startled or afraid. It simply walked toward the trees while watching my car drive past. Since then, I have no idea what it could have been until I read something about Gigantopithecus and saw the pic of a statue of it on all fours on a website. That statue I thought was close, but no cigar. Then tonight I found the Bill Munn pictures with the model in color and it clicked. It was very much the same coloring, mane, head, and eyes. The only difference was the size. What I saw was huge, on all fours, maybe almost the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. Damn! But it stood up not quite so tall. Then again, the sighting was only seconds before I had to return my attention to navigating the rest of the turn at maybe 40 miles an hour. Well, it was moving on all fours, which, Kuhnbo's even talked about them moving on all fours.
Yep.
Josh Dalton says that's within a half hour. Well, dude, maybe you ought to go down there and find that spot, see what you can find. Yeah, Sonia, that was in state that account was from Virginia.
So it was as big as a beetle on all fours.
Yeah, big as a Volkswagen Beetle. That's a big animal.
Yeah.
And when she said, I've seen the picture she's talking about of Gigantopithecus. To me, I think, distant relatives of the Gigantopithecus may be one of the best possible explanations for the existence of Sasquatch, or at least a type of them. What do you think?
I think
Josh Dalton says that's a big negatory Ghost Rider. I guess he ain't going down there.
I think that's a very good estimation. I think Dr. Meldrum has said that a couple times. That's a possibility that this could be an offshoot from Gigantopithecus.
Well, a large primate makes more sense than some of the other explanations.
Well, you know me, that's what I think anyway. So
yeah, same here.
It's definitely one of my possibility theories.
I think it's either a genetic offshoot of Gigantopithecus or something like a remnant population of Neanderthal, something that has a common ancestor to us, but diverged off that evolutionary path at some point, somewhere between us and gorillas.
And that very well could. My personal thing is I just think it's It's just something that hadn't been discovered yet. I think and when I say discovered, I don't mean the government has discovered it. I understand that. What I'm saying, but it's not. It's just like, the mountain gorillas that weren't discovered till what, 1952, I think, or 53, somewhere
I don't
around
know
in
what
there.
years they were discovered, but it wasn't all that long ago. Or the
Yeah,
Billy ape in the late
90.
90s.
Yeah, 98. Uh, Giant pandas weren't discovered till the 1930s. I mean, there's some popular animals out there that were basically discovered fairly recently. If as the geological clock ticks. So I mean, but there again, who knows if I'm right or wrong? I mean, that's just my opinion. I could be completely off with it, but I believe that it's just an undiscovered species of great ape. I saw somebody on Facebook. I don't even remember the name, and I don't want to give them, because they were really doing what we don't like people to do, and that was, if you don't believe what I believe, you're stupid. And
Right. I mean, we've often said we're no experts and we
Yep.
don't claim to be. We could be 100% wrong. This is just what we think it is.
Yep, and they were on the kick of, they were sick and tired of this Bigfoot being a primate or a great ape type thing, and da 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 da, and show me proof of this, show me proof of that, and I'm like, you know what, that kind of stuff is what just pisses me off more than anything. Is everybody can have their own opinion. You and I don't agree on everything that we have. You've got different opinions, like the relic hominid opinion. You kind of think that. I don't believe that, but that doesn't
I
change the
think
fact.
it's possible. I don't
Yeah.
think necessarily think that's
Right.
exactly it,
But
but I think it's a possible explanation.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't. I think it is what it is. But that doesn't change the fact that
Well, even if it is a relic hominid, a hominid is still a great ape.
right. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it's anything that's like a Neanderthal or anything like that. I think it's just like a gorilla. It's just something that we hadn't discovered. But that's my opinion. That doesn't mean what I'm thinking is right. That doesn't mean what I'm thinking is wrong. And everybody can have their own opinions, because guess what? Nobody knows what these things are yet.
And for all I can say to the people that say, "Well, show me proof that it's some kind of ape." Have you ever cracked an anthropology book and looked at all of the ancestors of humanity dating back to antiquity, dating back to like Lucy or Heidelbergensis or you know Homo habilis? Crack a anthropology book one of these days and tell me some of those ancestors of ours don't look like Bigfoot.
Look at the Billy ape.
Robin Ray says offshoot of Denisovians. Yeah, Denisovians and Neanderthals were contemporaries. They existed at about the same time. So that's another great candidate. Anyway, go ahead. What were you saying about the Billy ape?
Look at the Billy ape. I mean, 6 foot upright chimp. What does that sound like?
Sounds like a lot of descriptions of the skunk ape. They said it's more chimp-like than gorilla-like.
And it just ticks me off when you get people like that the my way or the highway people. Those are the ones that it's this way, and guys claiming he got video of Bigfoot's cloaking, and that Bigfoot's cloak, and they do this, and I'm like, hey, you have no clue what they do.
Right.
You have a theory
and
and an
anybody
opinion.
that has so set in their ways that they can't think of a possibility where they could be wrong, they are already wrong. Cajun Dog says, what do you think that would mean to the scientific community? I think that there's a certain portion of the scientific community that would not be phased, that have probably already identified these things for the government. I mean, like I said, I think our government has known about these things for a very long time. To mainstream science, it might be one of those things that sets people on their ear, but to certain groups in the scientific community, I think these things have been known for a long time.
Well, I mean, we've kind of already got that question answered. Look at the Billy ape. discovered in 1998. There wasn't really a lot of big fanfare about that, and that's basically a lot of the same characteristics as a Bigfoot. This thing exists. They've got it. It's a 6 to 6.5 foot upright walking chimp that uses tools, attacks and kills lions, drags women and children out of the villages that they're in. I mean, a lot of the tropes that we already hear from Bigfoot, but why do people not still talk about that?
Right, exactly. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, he sent me a picture. The Staunton River State Park, dude, that area looks just like Table Rock Lake. I'll share it. It looks very much like where we were just showing areas of around, like Joe Bald and stuff. It's very similar type of terrain. I mean, look at that.
I don't know what Robert D's talking about, but he's talking about something's a loin killer. I don't know if I want to mess with a loin killer.
I'll kill a pork loin.
He means lion killers. Sorry. That makes sense. I mean, you never know. They might be loin killers too. That might be how they take the lions out. At least the males, anyway.
Well, they're in the groin area of any mammal are a lot of heavy bleeding areas. A lot of big arteries. Yeah, leading down into the femoral artery. You do a lot of damage. I mean, you shoot somebody in the pelvic girdle, they can bleed out and die pretty fast.
Yeah, imagine if they rip the ding off, the lion ain't gonna be happy.
I don't think anything would be happy.
That would definitely be a loin killer. See, Robert, you just gave us.
You may not be dead, but you wish you were.
You just gave us minutes of entertainment.
Jennifer Lee says Cam had a good story that made a good point on why they won't admit to their existence. I'm sure that he probably did. I haven't heard that one. I've got to catch up with Cam. He's been releasing stuff that I haven't been listening to lately. But I'm sure that it all trails back to money. They don't want people to know about them because it would kill a multi-billion-dollar industry, and that's the national parks. People would stop going.
$33 billion a year. That's a lot of cheese.
That is a lot of cheddar. Well, my dude, we are at the 2-hour mark.
Yes, we are.
Next time we do one of these, why don't y'all, send us a message or something through Facebook or email. Let us know what areas you would like us to do some stories from. What areas, if you're curious, if there are any within, driving distance of your home or what state you're living in, because we've got a ton of them. I mean, Map Squatch alone, and not even counting the BFRO or the ECBRO, or the Gulf Coast GCBRO. There's a bunch of those out there with databases that they're all over the U.S. and I think there's a lot of sightings in every state but Hawaii. So let us know where you'd like us to have. Philip Miller says Kansas. We could hit some Kansas sightings, but there's sightings in just about every state. And if you're wanting to go, give yourself a thrill and drive through an area where there's been a sighting and see if you can see something, I would recommend just driving through, unless you're prepared for things to turn south. Fortunately, we've in the situations where we've been in where they did turn south, we've been prepared and we're able to get out safely. But if you're planning on any kind of trip like that, be careful. Make your plans. Let people know where you're going. Let them know when you're supposed to be back so they know where to start looking for if you don't come back. Take a good med kit, preferably Dark Angel kit because they are the best. But take a med kit, take something to defend yourself, and take basic survival equipment because you never know when the backcountry of rural, wherever you're at, becomes a trap when 911 no longer works and you can't get back to your car. West Tennessee, well, we can certainly look at that. There's a lot of stories from Tennessee and Kentucky and
Tennessee, Georgia.
yeah,
Georgia's
pretty much anything along any major river system is going to have a lot of them.
I think
But
Georgia and Florida are both in the top 5. I think.
A.R. Harris says, "Are there any reports in the parks of southern Utah?" Well, let me go back. I closed out of that. Let me go back and I will look at it if it will ever come up. Finding most of the ones I'm finding in Utah are in northern Utah, but there are some in southern Utah. Some in central Utah. Here's one near Garfield County. There's another one in Garfield County. And this one is over in San Juan County. So yeah, there's a few in southern Utah. There I don't see any dogman stories in Utah, but I do see some in Colorado and a couple in Kansas. But yeah, there's definitely Bigfoot sightings in Kansas, a bunch of them. So shoot us an email, shoot us a message, let us know what state you live in, and if you'd like to hear a story or two from your local area, and we may go ahead and do that on Wednesday night. We may just do another encounter show, and you let us know where you want to hear some encounters from, and we will do that. That sound good to y'all?
Sonia said that Angela wanted to know if the group could send their own stories to us. I would think that would be absolutely a great idea.
I've had a couple of sent to me that I haven't read yet. I've been kind of saving those until I had several good stories from viewers. So if you guys want to send us your own encounter stories, send them to DARoberts at DARoberts.net. We'll put that up here in the chat. Miss Lene, could one of y'all put the contact info up? Just email me at DARoberts at DARoberts.net. And I've already got a couple that I've been kind of saving until I had several to read on the show. Just let us know if you've got something you'd like us to read, and we may do that next weekend. But Wednesday we'll do accounts from the states where y'all live, and you can message us, or you can just wait till Wednesday night and say, hey, read one from Ottawa, read one from West Virginia, that kind of thing. But we definitely like to read stories from your necks of the woods. Cajun says scariest thing in Colorado was Pocket Doc. There was a Wendigo sighting in Colorado, in southern Colorado near Pikes Peak. So yeah, I'll mess with Doc anytime before. I will not mess with Wendigo. Hopefully we'll have Doc with us next week, or Steve too. Guys, tune in this Wednesday, and we'll read accounts from your area. And then if y'all want to send us a number of your accounts, go ahead and if you've sent them before, go ahead and send them again just to make sure I've still got them, because emails tend to get deleted sometimes, even when I'm not trying to, when I'm trying to keep them. So if you've already sent me your account before, send it again, and go ahead and send me your emails. Email me your stories to DARoberts at DARoberts.net, and we'll plan on like a week from tonight doing, viewer stories, encounters. Even if you just you thought it was Bigfoot. If you were camping and you heard something big stomping around, go ahead and tell us that. I mean, those are still great stories because, even if it turned out it was just a moose, it's still pretty intimidating to hear something walking around your camp at night. So go ahead and send us any of those stories, even if you think it was Sasquatch, you just don't know, or think it was a dog man. We'd still love to hear it. Cajun says, don't let Doc have a snowmobile in that area. Heck yeah. But thank you guys for being with us tonight. I really enjoyed reading these encounter stories, and then we got a chance to show you guys some of those areas that we got into, and just give you guys a pretty good idea how densely forested those areas are. And we weren't even in the Mark Twain in any of those. The Mark Twain is a whole different animal. Mark Twain National Forest is huge, and maybe I'll bring up uh, Google Earth and show you guys the Mark Twain at another point. But we really thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you guys have been waiting for part two of Heart of Iron, the Redneck Reading Alliance will be doing that tomorrow night, part two of that. So tune in tomorrow night for part two of Heart of Iron on the Redneck Reading Association, or whatever you want to call it. And maybe we'll see if we can get a Grey Eagle Girls Club T-shirt and a Redneck Reading Alliance T-shirt up on the store. I'll see if I can work up some graphics, and we'll get some new T-shirts up. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to check out Skallywag Tactical, and also don't forget to check out Robbie's Lone Wolf Customs, because he makes some pretty amazing custom blades. You can choose your design, or choose from an existing design, and just shoot Robbie an email. Miss, maybe you put up Robbie's email address as well in the chat. Would appreciate it. And just email him and get with him, and you can get some pretty awesome custom blades. And if you're looking for something that just a good hunting blade or a good pocket knife, check out scallywagtactical.com. And if you want a med kit, go see the good folks over at Dark Angel Medical. You can check out all of my books, like the one we're going to be reading tomorrow night. You can check them all out at DARoberts.net or over on Amazon.com. And again, the newest of the Dark Frontiers stories, Demon of Paladuro Canyon, has been at #1 for almost 2 solid weeks. And I am so grateful for y'all to making that happen. That is just absolutely astounding. I've had other books go to #1, but they never stayed there long. They were always there for, a day or two, maybe at the most. But this thing's been #1 in Western horror for over 2 weeks. I released that, I think it was a week ago Tuesday. Yeah, we can go yesterday. So it's been just over 2 weeks since I released it. And 2 weeks ago is what I meant. No, I didn't mean a week ago. But so it's been out 2 weeks, and it's been #1 in its category the whole time. And I'm just astounded. Thank you guys so much for making that happen. Get some Gideon fans too. There is a Gideon solo project in the works. I won't say too much about it, but it's probably going to come sometime later this year. Lakeview Man, Dead of Winter is about 45,000 words into it. I'm hoping to have it done in another week or so, and then get it edited and out. And Robbie's book should be edited and out shortly on its heels. We're waiting on Robbie to finish edits, and then we'll do layout and cover and get that sucker out for you guys, because I think you guys are really going to like it. It for a debut novel, it really kicks it out of the park. And I'm going to give some credit where credit is due. Well, Robbie really studied his craft and learned his lessons, because for a debut novel, like I said, it's damn good. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Well, I appreciate the head nod, Bubba, but that was your writing. You wrote all that, so tip your hat and be proud of it, because you certainly earned it. And that one is going to be called. What is it called, Robbie?
We kind of toyed around with different things, and I think we decided to go with the hyphenated, didn't we?
I believe so.
It's hyphenated, and it's called. Well, let me pull it up, make sure I don't get. That was the old.
There's going to be a hyphen in between the W's.
It is. Let me go back to where you sent that to me, because you sent me the.
Well, I'll just upload it. How about that?
Yeah, that'll work. If you got that title page, that'll work.
Yeah, I gotta get to the actual downloads page. What the heck is going on? Oh, it's your cat. I was like, what is that?
It's old loudmouth. She's being needy.
I forgot it's the transparent one. I need to delete that one. Because it just put the words right over the top of it. You couldn't even really read them. There we go. Shadow Walkers, Silver Star, book 1 of the Shadow Walker series.
Yep, there it is.
So watch for that in the next couple of weeks as well. We're going to try to get. I'm going to try to finish mine up while Robbie's doing his edits, and we'll get layout and everything done and get that released for you guys. And I hope you guys will pick it up and really show Robbie some love because he did a really good job on it. Well, folks, we're coming up to the end of the show, and it was come to the point of the night where I always like to talk about the 22 a Day Foundation. And I've got my 22 kill ring on, my 22 a Day Foundation wristband. Robbie's got his wristband on. Well, we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. We can make that number 0, and I would love it to see that number back down to 0. But check on your friends and family who are veterans or active military or first responders, anybody that's worn a uniform to keep us safe and keep us free. Check on them. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care because 22 a day is 22 too many. And you never know when that "Hey, are you okay?" text might be the only thing that keeps them off the edge that day. And sometimes it's the people who you think don't need it at all are the ones that need it the most. So check on them. Let them know you care about them. Let them know you care. And let's get 22 a day down to 0. If someone wants to see your cat. Vicky wants to see your cat.
All right, make your appearance.
The cat looks unimpressed.
Yes, she's unimpressed.
Like, yeah, whatever. What's her name? Tempest?
Tempest. I didn't name her.
But
my daughter's best friends had her and another cat, and they didn't get along. And I don't know if Tempest was doing the bullying or the other cat was doing the bullying. She needed someplace for Tempest to stay, and Taylor kind of took matters into her own hands and volunteered. I mean,
voluntold.
Yeah.
Guess what, Dad? You got a cat now. What?
Kathy, this cat does not need to be fed. Trust me. She probably weighs about 15 pounds. She's well fed. Trust me.
She's a chunker.
Yes.
Kind of like Harley. We're got to buy Harley a new winter coat. He's almost too fat for his now.
Yes, she is.
Anyway, that's Tempest, and again, reach out to your friends and family who want a uniform and let them know you care. And we're going to end up the show with a toast. I'm going to take my hat off. It's a really cool toast. It's from an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass." And so if you guys will lift a glass with it, doesn't matter what you're drinking. And as the song says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all." Slanja, everyone, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night on the Redneck Reading Association. Good night, everyone.
Slanja.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAExMachiNation. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.